Zara Velthara stood before the High Council of Veritha, her silver skin shimmering under the crystalline lights of the Grand Chamber. Her emerald eyes reflected years of diplomatic training, while her long platinum hair was braided with ceremonial beads that marked her as one of their finest ambassadors. The 7 council members, draped in flowing robes of deep purple, regarded her with the cold calculation that had made their species feared across the galaxy. Ambassador Velthara, spoke Elder Kairos, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. You understand the gravity of this mission. Zara straightened her shoulders. I do. Elder, the humans have become problematic. The humans had emerged onto the galactic stage with shocking speed. Unlike other species who spent centuries cautiously exploring space, humans had charged forward with characteristic boldness. Now their expansion threatened Verithan mining operations across 3 star systems, and traditional diplomatic channels had failed completely. Our intelligence indicates, Elder Kairos continued, that humans are particularly susceptible to certain influences. His gaze swept over Zara's elegant form. Your record as a diplomatic envoy is exceptional. You have secured favorable outcomes with the warrior clans of Morduk and the merchant princes of Stellaris. Zara nodded, though she felt uncomfortable under their scrutiny. She was a skilled negotiator, not a seductress. Still, she had served Veritha loyally for 20 cycles. If this mission would protect her people's interests, she would do her duty. General Cameron Thorne is Earth's military representative to their diplomatic corps, Elder Kairos explained. He has significant influence over their expansion policies. You will be assigned as our ambassador to Earth. Your mission is to gain his trust and redirect human expansion away from our territories. Elder Vex, the youngest council member, leaned forward. Use whatever means necessary, Ambassador. The general's psychological profile suggests he responds well to personal attention. The implication was clear. Zara maintained her professional demeanor despite her distaste. When do I depart? Immediately. The diplomatic vessel Starwind awaits. You have 4 Earth months to achieve results. As Zara walked through the gleaming corridors of the Verithan capital, her aide Joran fell into step beside her. The ship is prepared, Ambassador, he said, handing her a data pad. I've uploaded everything we have on human customs and General Thorne's personal file. Zara studied the information as they walked. Cameron Thorne was 42 Earth years old, a decorated military veteran with piercing gray eyes and short-cropped brown hair. His file indicated he was unmarried, principled, and notoriously difficult to influence through conventional diplomatic channels. The irony isn't lost on me, Zara murmured to Joran. They're sending me to charm a man who's resistant. To charm. The council believes your natural grace will overcome such obstacles. Joran replied diplomatically. Aboard the Starwind, Zara spent the 3-week journey studying human culture intensively. Their art fascinated her with its raw emotion and creativity. Their music stirred feelings she'd been trained to suppress. Their literature revealed a species capable of both tremendous cruelty and profound compassion. General Thorne's photographs showed a man with strong features and intelligent eyes that seemed to evaluate everything they saw. There was something compelling about his face, a quiet strength that commanded respect without demanding it. The night before arrival, Zara stood before her mirror, assessing her appearance. Her silver skin would certainly be exotic to humans, as would her unusual height and elegant features. The form-fitting diplomatic attire she'd selected was designed to be both professional and subtly alluring. Computer, display human attraction patterns, she commanded. A holographic display appeared, showing various human behavioral cues. Zara studied them carefully, memorizing the subtle signals that humans found appealing. Ambassador, the ship's AI announced. We will enter Earth orbit in 6 hours. Acknowledged, Zara replied, turning away from the mirror. She felt an unexpected flutter of nervousness in her stomach. She had negotiated with war-hungry species and enigmatic energy beings. One human general should be simple by comparison. Yet, as she prepared for sleep, Zara couldn't shake the feeling that this mission would change everything. Perhaps it was the unusual nature of her assignment, or perhaps it was something in those steady gray eyes that had looked out from General Thorne's file. It's just another diplomatic mission, she told herself firmly. Complete the objective and return home. But as she drifted off to sleep, those gray eyes followed her into her dreams, and she wondered if she was truly prepared for what awaited her on Earth. First contact. The Earth Diplomatic Center rose majestically against the morning sky, its glass and steel structure reflecting the golden sunlight. Zara felt the planet's heavier gravity affecting her movements. As she stepped from the transport vessel, Earth's atmosphere was richer in oxygen than Veritha's, making her feel slightly lightheaded. Ambassador Valthara, a human woman, greeted her at the entrance. I'm Director Patricia Morgan, Earth's liaison for interspecies relations. Welcome to our world. Zara inclined her head gracefully. The honor is mine, Director. Veritha values this opportunity to strengthen relations between our peoples. As they walked through the facility, Zara noticed the curious stares from humans they passed. Some looked amazed, others appeared fascinated. Several male humans' gazes lingered longer than seemed appropriate, their pupils dilating in what her research indicated was attraction. Humans have limited experience with non-terrestrial species, Director Morgan explained. Noticing Zara's awareness of the attention, your appearance is quite striking to us. I understand. Differences can be intriguing, Zara replied diplomatically. They passed through multiple security checkpoints where Zara submitted to biometric scans. The thoroughness exceeded what her briefing materials had described. Humans were cautious. It seemed General Thorne is waiting in the diplomatic reception hall, Director Morgan said as they entered an elevator. He's been briefed on Verithan customs, but please forgive any cultural missteps. The elevator doors opened to reveal a spacious hall with panoramic views of the city. Several humans in formal attire stood conversing in small groups. Zara immediately identified General Thorne. From her studies, he stood taller than most, his military bearing evident even in civilian diplomatic clothes. As Director Morgan led her toward him, Zara activated her diplomatic training. She adjusted her posture to appear more approachable, modified her walking rhythm to draw attention, and crafted a smile that her research indicated humans found appealing. General Thorne, Director Morgan called out. May I present Ambassador Zara Valthara of the Verithan Collective? The general turned, and Zara experienced an unexpected moment of disorientation. The photographs in his file hadn't captured the intensity of his presence. His gray eyes met hers directly, intelligent and assessing. Ambassador, he said, extending his hand in the human greeting custom. Welcome to Earth. Zara placed her hand in his, noting the warmth of his skin against her naturally cooler temperature. General Thorne, I've looked forward to our meeting. His handshake was firm but not aggressive, confident without being domineering. As their hands touched, Zara deployed a subtle pheromone release, a standard technique among her people to establish rapport. General Thorne's expression changed almost imperceptibly. His eyes narrowed slightly, and he drew a deeper breath. Then, surprisingly, he took a step back while maintaining eye contact. I hope your journey was comfortable, he said, his voice perfectly cordial yet somehow more guarded. Zara felt a flicker of surprise. The pheromone should have increased his comfort and receptivity. Instead, he seemed to have recognized the manipulation attempt. Quite comfortable, thank you, she replied smoothly. Though I'm still adjusting to Earth's atmospheric composition. Understandable. Our medical team is available if you experience any difficulties. He gestured toward a refreshment table. Would you care for something to drink? Our research suggests Verithan physiology is compatible with most Earth beverages. As they walked, Zara recalibrated her approach. This human was more perceptive than anticipated. I'm curious, General. Your file indicates extensive experience with non-terrestrial species, some, he acknowledged, handing her a glass of water. Though you're the first Verithan I've met, I find it's best to approach new diplomatic relationships with openness rather than techniques. The emphasis on the last word was subtle but unmistakable. He knew, a commendable approach. Zara said, maintaining her composure. On Veritha, certain diplomatic protocols are considered courtesies rather than manipulations. I apologize if our customs differ. General Thorne's expression softened slightly. No apology necessary, Ambassador. Cultural differences are why we're here to learn from each other. He paused, then added with unexpected directness, though I would appreciate if we could interact without biochemical enhancements. Zara felt a genuine smile form her first since arriving. This human was refreshingly forthright. Agreed, General. Cameron, please, if we're to work together, formality will only slow us down. Then you must call me Zara for the next hour. They discussed preliminary diplomatic matters, trade possibilities, cultural exchange programs, and boundary agreements. Throughout their conversation, Zara found herself increasingly intrigued. Cameron Thorne was unlike any diplomatic counterpart she'd encountered. He was direct without being blunt, principled without being rigid, and possessed a dry humor that occasionally caught her off guard. Most disconcertingly, he seemed immune to her carefully calibrated charm. He maintained professional courtesy, but the expected male response to her appearance was notably absent. Or rather, she sensed his awareness of her attractiveness, but it didn't seem to influence his diplomatic stance. As their initial meeting concluded, Cameron walked her to her assigned quarters in the diplomatic wing. The real work begins tomorrow, he said. Tonight, rest and adjust to our world. Thank you for your consideration, Zara replied. I look forward to our continued discussions. As she turned to enter her quarters, Cameron spoke again. Ambassador Zara. She paused, looking back at him. Whatever your true mission here, he said quietly, I hope you'll consider that honesty might achieve more than whatever strategy you've been instructed to employ. Before she could respond, he nodded politely and walked away, leaving Zara staring after him with the unsettling realization that General Cameron Thorne was going to be far more challenging than the Verithan Council had anticipated. Unexpected. Connections to Grand Terrace of the Diplomatic Center sparkled with hundreds of lights that mimicked Earth's constellations. Zara stood at the edge of the reception, watching humans in formal attire mingle with representatives from various galactic species. A string quartet played what her cultural briefing identified as classical music, the complex harmonies surprisingly pleasing to her Verithan hearing. Enjoying the view, Cameron appeared beside her, offering a glass of sparkling liquid. It's breathtaking, Zara admitted, accepting the drink. What is this? Champagne. A traditional Earth beverage for celebrations. I thought you might appreciate experiencing human culture firsthand. She sipped cautiously, finding the bubbles created an interesting sensation. It's effervescent, like your people. Cameron raised an eyebrow. We're effervescent? Dynamic, energetic. Zara gestured toward the crowd. Most species take centuries to reach the stars. Humans achieved it in decades. You don't hesitate, you leap. Some would call that recklessness, he said with a hint of amusement. Perhaps, but there's something admirable in it too. The words came out more genuine than she'd intended. Before Cameron could respond, the quartet shifted to a new melody, and couples began moving to the center of the terrace. Dancing, Cameron explained, another human tradition. Would you care to try? Zara hesitated. Her mission parameters encouraged physical proximity, but after yesterday's encounter, she was wary of appearing manipulative. Yet she was genuinely curious about this human custom. I'd like that, she said finally, though I should warn you I've only studied the movements theoretically. Cameron's hand settled lightly at her waist as he guided her onto the dance floor. Just follow my lead. It's a simple waltz, 3 beats to a measure. As they began to move, Zara was acutely aware of the warmth of his hand through the thin fabric of her formal attire. The dance required closer proximity than was customary in Verithan's social interactions, yet she found it wasn't uncomfortable. You're a natural, Cameron commented as they moved smoothly among the other dancers. I have an excellent teacher, she replied, allowing a genuine smile. For several minutes they danced in companionable silence. Zara found herself relaxing into the rhythm, enjoying the novel experience. Around them, other diplomats watched with curiosity the silver-skinned Verithan and the human general moving in perfect harmony. I've been wondering, Cameron said finally, why the Verithan collective suddenly prioritized diplomatic relations with Earth. Your people have been aware of us for at least a decade, yet only now send an ambassador. The question was casual. But Zara recognized the diplomatic probe beneath it. She chose her words carefully. The collective moves deliberately in all things. We prefer to observe before engaging. And what did your observations tell you about humans? That you're unpredictable, fascinating, potentially valuable allies, or formidable adversaries? Cameron's gray eyes studied her face. And which outcome are you here to ensure, Ambassador? Before Zara could formulate a response, her communication device vibrated subtly against her wrist. The Verithan Council's priority signal, a message that couldn't wait. "Excuse me," she said, stepping back from Cameron's embrace. "I need to attend to this." He nodded, professional courtesy immediately replacing the warmth of their dance. "Of course, I'll be nearby." When you're finished, Zara moved to a quiet alcove and activated her secure communication device. Elder Kairos's stern face materialized in a small holographic projection. "Ambassador Valthara," he said without preamble, "your progress report is overdue, Elder." She acknowledged with a respectful nod. "I've only just established initial contact. These things require. We did not send you to Earth for diplomatic niceties," Kairos interrupted. "Your mission parameters were explicit. The human expansion must be redirected within for months. We're already detecting survey ships near the Proxima deposits." Zara kept her expression neutral despite her irritation. "General Thorne is not easily influenced. Direct manipulation would be counterproductive. Then find indirect methods," Kairos said coldly. "Your predecessor was recalled for similar hesitation. Need I remind you of his fate?" The implicit threat hung between them. Diplomatic failure on Veritha often meant permanent reassignment to the mining colonies, a life sentence of hard labor in harsh conditions. "No, Elder, I understand my duty. See that you fulfill it. The Council expects tangible progress in your next report." "1 week, Ambassador." The hologram flickered out. Zara closed her eyes briefly, centering herself. When she opened them, she was startled to find Cameron standing several meters away. His expression unreadable. "Everything all right?" he asked. As she approached, "Merely routine communication from my government," she replied smoothly. "They're eager for progress reports, aren't they always?" His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "I hope they're not putting undue pressure on you. Diplomatic relations can't be rushed." The irony of his statement wasn't lost on Zara. Some in the collective have different perspectives on timeframes. Cameron nodded thoughtfully. "Well, while your superiors are impatient for results, perhaps we could continue your cultural education." He gestured toward an exhibition area. "This gallery showcases humanity's artistic achievements. I'd be happy to give you a tour." As they walked through the exhibition, Cameron explained various art forms, paintings that captured Earth's diverse landscapes, sculptures that celebrated the human form, digital installations that played with light and sound. Zara found herself genuinely fascinated by the creativity on display. "Your species expresses emotion so openly," she observed, studying a particularly moving portrait. "On Veritha, such displays would be considered inappropriate." "Is that why you seem to keep yourself so contained?" Cameron asked. "Even when you're clearly interested in something, you hold back." The observation was uncomfortably perceptive. "We're taught from childhood that control is strength. And what do you believe?" The question caught her off guard. No one had ever asked what she believed, only what the collective expected. Before she could formulate a diplomatic non-answer, Cameron continued. "Because when you were dancing earlier, you seemed freer, happier even. It suited you." Their eyes met, and Zara felt an unfamiliar warmth spread through her chest. This wasn't the calculated attraction she'd been trained to inspire. This was something unexpected, genuine connection, and it terrified her. The Heart's Rebellion Thay diplomatic compound's garden provided a secluded setting. The following morning, earth plants arranged in careful patterns, their scents unfamiliar yet pleasant. Cameron was already waiting when Zara arrived, his tall figure silhouetted against the morning sun. "I hope you enjoyed last night's reception," he said as she approached. "It was educational," Zara replied, settling onto a bench beside him. "Your species has created remarkable art." Cameron nodded, but his expression had lost the warmth of the previous evening. "I've always believed art reveals truth about its creators, what they value, what they fear." He paused, studying her face. What truths would Verithan art reveal, I wonder? The question felt loaded. Zara chose her words carefully. Order, precision, control. Not passion or connection, those are discouraged in our society. Cameron's gaze remained steady. Then why is your government so interested in our mining operations near Proxima Centauri? The question hit like a physical blow. Zara maintained her composure through years of diplomatic training, but her pulse quickened. I'm not sure what you mean. I think you do. Cameron's voice remained calm, but his eyes had hardened. Earth intelligence intercepted communications between your council and mining guilds. The disputed territories contain rare mineral deposits that both our species value. Zara felt the careful diplomatic constructs she'd built beginning to crumble. If Earth has concerns about resource allocation, that should be addressed through proper channels, unlike sending a specially selected ambassador to manipulate policy through personal influence. Cameron interrupted, his tone still measured but edged with disappointment. The use of her full mission description, personal influence, hit harder than any accusation. Zara felt an unfamiliar heat rise to her face. Shame, an emotion Verithan rarely acknowledged. You knew, she said softly, from the beginning. I suspected. Your arrival coincided too perfectly with our expansion plans. Cameron sighed, running a hand through his dark hair. What I don't understand is why the deception. If the territories are important to your people, why not simply negotiate? The truth hovered on Zara's lips. The Verithan Council's fear of human unpredictability, their belief that humans responded better to manipulation than reason, their willingness to use her as a tool rather than a diplomat. My people, she began, then stopped. No, I won't hide behind my people anymore. I was sent here with explicit instructions to seduce you, to use physical attraction to influence human policy. The admission felt both terrible and liberating. The Council believes humans are ruled by their physical desires. Cameron's expression remained unreadable. And what do you believe? I believe I've never met anyone like you, Zara admitted, the words emerging unbidden. Someone who sees through deception, but responds with curiosity rather than anger. Someone who values truth even when it's uncomfortable. Something shifted in Cameron's eyes, the disappointment giving way to something warmer. He moved closer, on the bench, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. The truth is, he said quietly, I've been fighting an attraction to you since we met. Not because of any pheromones or diplomatic tactics, but because of moments like last night when you let your guard down and showed genuine curiosity. About humanity, Zara's breath caught. This wasn't how diplomatic encounters were supposed to proceed. The Council had prepared her for human lust, not human honesty. Cameron, his hand covered hers, warm against her cooler skin. I don't know what happens next. The diplomatic situation is complicated. But whatever develops between us should be real, not manufactured. The sincerity in his voice broke something open inside her. A door to emotions the Verithan Collective had trained her to suppress. Without thinking, she leaned forward and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was tentative at first, then deepened as Cameron responded. Warmth spread through Zara's body, a heat unlike anything she'd experienced. This wasn't the calculated seduction she'd been prepared to execute, but something far more dangerous, genuine desire. When they finally broke apart, Cameron's gray eyes had darkened. That wasn't in any diplomatic protocol I'm familiar with, he murmured. Nor mine, Zara admitted, her voice unsteady. But I don't regret it. The hours that followed passed in a blur of discovery. They moved from the garden to Cameron's private quarters, where words gave way to touch, to exploration, to a connection that transcended their different species. Their coming together felt both inevitable and revolutionary, a bridge between worlds that politics could never build. Afterward, lying in the quiet of his room, Zara traced patterns on Cameron's chest, marveling at the differences and similarities between their bodies. The Verithan medical briefing had been correct about physical compatibility, but had failed to mention the emotional impact such intimacy might have. What happens now? She asked softly. Cameron's fingers tangled in her silver hair. Professionally, we have a diplomatic mess to untangle. The resource dispute is real, and both our governments have valid interests. He smiled, pressing a kiss to her forehead. Personally, I think we've started something neither of us expected. Something worth exploring. Zara nodded, a strange contentment settling over her despite the complications ahead. For the first time in her diplomatic career, she'd acted on personal desire rather than calculated strategy. The council would be furious, but in this moment, their disapproval seemed distant and unimportant. I should report to my superiors, she said reluctantly. They're expecting an update on my progress. Cameron's expression grew serious. What? Will you tell them? Not the truth. Not yet. Zara sat up, gathering her thoughts. I need time to formulate a diplomatic solution that serves both our interests. If they believe I'm still pursuing their original plan, they'll give me that time. Deception in service of a greater honesty. Cameron raised an eyebrow. That's very human of you. Zara smiled, surprised by how natural it felt. Perhaps you're a bad influence. As she dressed to return to her quarters, Zara felt different, changed in ways she couldn't yet articulate. What had begun as a calculated mission had become something authentic. Whatever consequences awaited, she couldn't bring herself to regret. The path that had led to this moment, what neither of them could know was that their union had already set in motion. Something unprecedented. Within Zara's body, cells were combining, dividing, creating something that Verithan medical science had deemed impossible, a bridge between species. That would change everything. Love's ultimate test 3 weeks after their first intimate encounter. Zara sat in her quarters reviewing diplomatic proposals when an unexpected wave of nausea overwhelmed her. She rushed to the bathroom, her body rejecting the morning meal with violent efficiency. As she sat on the cool floor afterward, a terrifying possibility began to form in her mind. The Verithan medical officer had assured her that cross-species conception was impossible. Their reproductive systems were too different, their genetic structures incompatible. Yet the symptoms she'd been experiencing, the nausea, the fatigue, the strange emotional sensitivity, all pointed to one conclusion. Impossible, she whispered to herself, but her hand instinctively moved to her abdomen. Her communication device chimed with Cameron's personal code. She accepted the call, his holographic image appearing before her. "Good morning, beautiful," he said, his smile warming her despite her concerns. "Dinner tonight. There's a new restaurant I'd like to try with you." "Yes," she said, forcing normalcy into her voice. "But Cameron, we need to talk. Something's happening." His expression grew serious. "What kind of something? I'd rather discuss it in person. Can we meet earlier, perhaps at the medical facility?" "Of course. Is everything all right?" "I hope so," she said, ending the transmission. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the physician assigned to non-terrestrial diplomats, greeted Zara with professional courtesy. "Ambassador Valthara, this is unexpected. How can I help you?" "I've been experiencing some unusual symptoms," Zara explained, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Nausea, fatigue, emotional sensitivity. I was wondering if you could run some diagnostic tests." Dr. Walsh nodded, gesturing to an examination table. "Let's take a look." It could be a simple reaction to Earth's environment. As the medical scanner hummed above her, Zara's heart pounded. Dr. Walsh studied the readings, her expression shifting from professional interest to amazement. "Ambassador," she said carefully, "are you aware of any intimate contact with humans during your stay?" Zara's pulse quickened. "Why do you ask?" "Because according to these readings, you're experiencing hormonal changes consistent with early pregnancy." Dr. Walsh paused, checking her instruments again. With what appears to be a human Verithan hybrid, the room spun around Zara. "That's impossible. The immunization protocols, the biological incompatibility, were based on theoretical models," Dr. Walsh finished. "But theory and reality don't always align. The scan is clear you're approximately 3 weeks pregnant with what appears to be a viable hybrid embryo." Zara sat up slowly, her hand moving to her abdomen. "How is this possible? I'd need to run more tests to be certain, but my hypothesis is that human reproductive cells are more adaptive than your scientists anticipated. They've essentially found a way to bridge the genetic gap." Dr. Walsh's expression softened. "I understand this must be shocking. Will you be informing the father, Cameron? How would he react?" This went beyond their already complicated relationship into something completely unprecedented. "Yes," Zara said finally. "He needs to know." When Cameron arrived at her quarters that evening, Zara's heart was pounding. He greeted her with a kiss that momentarily pushed aside her anxiety. "You look troubled," he said, leading her inside. "What's happening?" Zara took a deep breath. "Two things, both significant. First, the Verithan Council is sending an enforcement team. They're displeased with my reports and suspect I'm not fulfilling my mission." Cameron's expression hardened. "When?" "5 days. The ship Darkwind is already en route." He nodded. Military training evident in his immediate tactical focus. "We'll need to prepare." "What kind of force are we talking about?" "Small but elite. 6 operatives. They won't start with violence, but they're authorized to extract me if deemed necessary." "That's not going to happen," Cameron said firmly, taking her hand. "What's the second thing?" Zara met his eyes, searching for the right words. "I visited the medical facility today. I've been experiencing symptoms." She paused, gathering courage. "Cameron, I'm pregnant." His expression froze, gray eyes widening. But the briefing said they were wrong. "Human biology is apparently more adaptable than my people realized." She watched his face carefully, fear and hope warring within her. "It's unprecedented. No human Verithan child has ever been conceived." For a long moment, Cameron was silent, processing. Then, to Zara's surprise, a slow smile spread across his face. "We've created something impossible," he said softly, reaching out to place his hand gently on her abdomen. "Something miraculous." Relief flooded through her. "You're not upset?" "Surprised, yes. Overwhelmed, definitely." His eyes met hers, filled with emotion. "But upset? No, Zara. What we found together is already beyond anything I expected. This child, our child, is just further proof that our species are meant to connect, not compete." Tears, another new experience, swelled in Zara's eyes. "The Council won't see it that way. A hybrid child would undermine their narrative about human inferiority. They'll want to terminate the pregnancy, study it as a specimen." Cameron's expression darkened. "That's not happening either." He pulled her close, his embrace protective. "We have 5 days to figure this out. The enforcement team, the pregnancy. We'll face it together." As Zara rested against his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat, she marveled at human resilience. Where a Verithan might calculate odds and retreat from unfavorable scenarios, Cameron immediately moved to protect, to solve, to face challenges head-on. "I've never met anyone like you," she whispered, echoing her words from weeks earlier, but with new depth of meaning. "Likewise," he murmured into her hair. "And now we're going to have a child who's the first of their kind. Seems fitting." That night, as they lay together planning their response to the coming confrontation, Zara realized how completely her mission had transformed. She'd come to manipulate and instead found connection. She'd been sent to redirect human expansion, and instead found herself expanding in the most fundamental way possible, creating new life. Whatever happened when the Darkwind arrived, one thing was certain: she would protect this unexpected gift, this impossible child growing within her. Not for the Verithan collective, not even for Cameron, but for herself and for the new future they were creating together. The next morning brought news that would change everything. Earth's diplomatic corps, acting on Cameron's intelligence, announced the discovery of the pregnancy to the galactic community. The first human Verithan hybrid became a symbol of hope rather than a political tool. The story that had begun with deception would end in truth. The mission that started with manipulation would conclude in love. And the child that science claimed was impossible would become the bridge between two worlds, proving that when hearts connect, even the stars must yield to love's power. As Zara stood beside Cameron, watching the sunrise paint Earth's sky in brilliant colors, she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Their love had defied orders, transcended species, and created new life. Now it would reshape the future of two civilizations. The heart, she had learned, was the most powerful diplomat of all.